Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and a lot is going on right now in the competitive Call of Duty community. Yesterday we discussed Temp getting benched from Los Angeles Thieves. Just a couple of hours after that, Minnesota Rokkr announced a very similar change. Maniak is out the team, Standy is into the team, but this I think has more questions as to whether this is the right move. Is the Friendship League coming into play? And also some discussion last night about Call of Duty WWII Vanguard, supposedly the next Call of Duty title we're going to get later this year. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's hop into things then. So yesterday after Temp got benched off the squad, Methods comes out of course benched off the Toronto Ultra not too long ago. Craziness right now in the professional scene. Bounce back season he says, and while he continues with this, once again suit up, it is time to go. However, that is not what happens. He actually joins Wester as yeah, he's their idol. Loki was there from a classic interview he did back in the day, I think Splice versus 100 Thieves or something way back in Black Ops 4. But yeah, Temp's joining the Wester family, so effectively Venom goes one way and Temp goes the other way. So interesting to see Temp as an amateur, to be honest. He's been at the top tier of the professional scene for, well, a number of years now, but well, it does seem like that is the way to go, and who knows when he'll get a chance to come back anytime soon. This I thought I'd mention for you guys was the scrims last night. To OpTic was scrimming up against the new Los Angeles Thieves, and well, early on it was pretty close. OpTic eventually warmed up and started taking some of these maps pretty comfortably indeed, but I think all things considered, most people were saying the Venom looked pretty solid on this squad, and given it was their first day of practice, very likely this is a step in the right direction for the team, I would argue. As Joey Nubsy then says, though, roster moves are going wild today, and guess what we get just a few minutes after that? Chrome comes out with this. Sources, Rokkr interested in Standy, who would likely replace a MajorManiak, and not too long after that, they officially do confirm it. So Standy has been one of the hottest SMG prospects, really in a similar fashion to Venom these last couple of years. Those were kind of the two top tier of the amateur scene in terms of SMG talents that a lot of the pro teams wanted to snag up. And maybe Standy was actually coming into this team anyway as some sort of substitute, but given the team has been having an absolute disaster these last couple of weeks, they decided, alright, let's just not even bring him in as a sub, let's just make this change straight away. But the change they have made, is this necessarily the right move? We'll have a look at it in a second. So they do a roster update right here. First of all, I must say, props to these teams for doing these types of videos. They get the coach, the analyst, or in Mudog's case, the general manager for Los Angeles Thieves, to sit down and give some discussion and give some reasoning behind why they've made these decisions. And clearly, look, Rokkr have been nowhere near the caliber we expected them to be. They got 3-0'd by Paris, 3-0'd by Florida Mutineers last week. Something it clearly had to give. And really, it was their SMG line, which we talked about it before the season even began. Did it really make much sense? You've got Priestahh in there, who's typically been best in his flex role, and then you've got Attach as the other SMG, who's always been a very slow player in general, even though he's got the SMG in hand. And then you've got Maniak and Accuracy. So clearly the roles didn't really make any sense. The pacing was just horrible for this team, first of all, and Priestahh was left out to dry, I suppose, by the other players on his squad. So clearly something had to give, and in a similar way to Los Angeles Thieves, upping that SMG pressure is something that you clearly had to do. Now, the move they've decided to make here is Priestahh's going to the flex, which I think is his best suited role. He's going to be on the second assault rifle, maybe on some maps an SMG comes out from time to time on certain hills if it's required, and that I think is where you do get the best out of Priestahh. In Call of Duty history, really, these last several years, he has been one of, if not the most versatile players in the game. I discussed it before the season began. Having him on an SMG is actually, well, to the detriment potentially of your team. The idea being that you're not leveraging his greatest strength in his versatility by just chucking him on an SMG. So then the question was, right, we need to get Priestahh more comfortable. We're going to put him on the second assault rifle. So then what do we do with the rest of the squad, right? Do we put Maniak on an SMG where he's going to be incredibly uncomfortable because apparently Accuracy, getting rid of him as the main AR, is never even in doubt. And this I think is where the questions start to come into play, right? Because as Priestahh says right here, such a difficult thing to have to change. In no world was Mike the only issue on the roster. I've been underperforming this year so far and feel terrible. Mike got the bad end of the stick. At the end of the day, something had to change back to the lab. So there is a lot of question marks. The idea, look, Maniak is clearly a very talented player. Him and Priestahh last season were crucial parts of the Atlanta FaZe squad that did so well. And well, the question would be, look, do you try Maniak on the main assault rifle, Priestahh as the second AR, and then Standy and Attach on your SMGs? That might make more sense than having Accuracy still as the main AR, because to me, Maniak is a pretty quick player. He can actually run the main AR at a pretty high pace, whereas Accuracy has always been a pretty slow player, and maybe there are still some pacing issues that will come to fruition on this team. But we do know very well indeed that, Attach and Accuracy are very good friends, and we'll have a look at what Mike says here here in a second. I've been benched by the Rokkr, may feel like one of the lowest points in my career. Gonna keep my head down and continue grinding. I'll rightfully earn the spot back in the CDL, wherever that may be. Thanks for the love as always. So clearly something had to change on this team, but I'm not sure necessarily this was the right move. I mean, Stanley coming into the team, of course, makes 100% sense. Attached staying makes perfect sense. I mean, the Priestahh saying makes perfect sense, but there is a question mark. Okay, like, accuracy is the main assault rifle. He hadn't been performing great, neither had Maniak, but you can argue that they put Maniak in somewhat difficult roles at times, given his position in the team, and attach and accuracy have a friendship that goes back quite a long way at this point, and I can certainly see a world in which Attach was not happy for accuracy to be removed off the team, and as a result of that, Maniak ended up being the scapegoat. And I think this is an opinion a lot of people echo right now. Even Dashy will look at this clip in just a couple of seconds here, and yeah, maybe this is an option they consider way down the line if, well, this team doesn't necessarily do so well, but accuracy and Attach, they're kind of the duo that came into this team. I mean, so are Priestahh and Maniak, right? But yeah, certainly seems that friendships maybe have played a factor in how this decision has been made.
Sure, I'm not going to say who should have won, you know what I'm saying? But that Major was pretty solid on that team. I'll be the one to say it. I thought he was pretty solid.
Now, do I think this is going to be a complete turnaround for the squad? I am far from convinced, right? Maniak goes out, not necessarily saying that Maniak is like a crucial piece to the success of this team, and so maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But look, the change for Venom for Temp, I think, is immediately going to make that team significantly better. I think you can definitely argue the Los Angeles Thieves should have some sort of honeymoon period here, and probably it does help their SMG line quite significantly. This change with Stanley coming in, certainly a very talented player, but I'm not necessarily sure that fixes all the issues they are having within their team. And I must say, I'm not convinced that this single move is going to rejuvenate this squad and make them like championship contenders straight away, but we'll have to see how they do the rest of this week, and try to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, because they do not have the easiest week. On Thursday, they play up against OpTic Chicago, their first match with Stanley coming into the lineup, and well, then they play on the Sunday, they play up against the Dallas Empire, so far from an easy week from them. Last week, they had their like easiest matches against the Florida Mutineers and the Paris Legion, until they do play Seattle Surge, I believe, next week, so okay, I suppose that's also on the easier scale of things compared to Dallas and OpTic that they're playing this time round. So definitely getting thrown into the absolute pit of these guys, and I'm not necessarily convinced they're going to come out the other side looking significantly better, but well, certainly I think this is a step in the right direction. I just can't see how this squad immediately becomes like a top 4 contender overnight because of this change, and I must say I think friendships have played a factor in how this team change has been decided. This also came out yesterday from Modern Warzone. This is a pretty big deal, because when this type of stuff starts coming out, you imagine there's a fair bit of truth to it. Exclusive, COD 2021 is set during World War II. Once again, baby, here we go. We kind of knew this was coming anyway, because we talked about, yes, Sledgehammer's making this game. The rumor has it, okay, it's either going to be like an old school World War II type shooter, or it's going to be an Advanced Warfare 2 type game. But I think we heard that it's 2023 that we're getting the first jetpack game back again. So I think like Trek are going to make it in 2023. That was the going rumor at the current time. So we kind of knew it was going to be boots on the ground. And here it is. World War II Vanguard supposedly is the working title of the game right now. I don't know what you guys thought about World War II originally. I like hated playing that game for public matches. I mean, some of the maps were just terrible, but I must say that for competitive, it actually wasn't too bad. Some of the maps actually made some degree of sense. It actually like kind of flowed relatively well, especially some of the hardpoints were okay. It was very boring to watch and boring to play, and that is kind of my concern about this title once again, but maybe things will be a lot better this time around. What we also got to say about World War II is that Sledgehammer actually did a fair bit of competitive support for that game, right? We had game battles integration, we had a good rank play system, so I think there's a number of things that can actually make this title a good one for competitive. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's not really about where it's set, it's about, is it a good game? Are the maps any good? You know, does it actually make sense in terms of how the movement works? Are the weapons fun to use? The colours not incredibly dreary? These are the kind of things that actually matter to me, and if that's okay, then the game, I'm sure, will be good regardless. But yeah, going back to the World War II era, not necessarily what a lot of the competitive players wanted. I think there's been a lot of drive in the competitive scene, especially the fact that, okay, can we get some jetpacks back? And I want to like destroy some people in public matches by using the movement in that sense. But again, not something which seems to be happening for another couple of years. So yeah, back to World War II it does seem, and that does raise some questions, right? Because there are some teams, especially, that weren't so good in World War II, and those type of shooters didn't really suit their playstyle particularly well. The key members of that squad, of course, being OpTic Gaming. Back in the day, they just come off this World Championship win in Infinite Warfare. The Dynasty goes into World War II, and has a pretty torrid time. They had like a decent couple of results in a couple of tournaments early on, but then they go top 16, I believe, believe it's soon to be Seattle, and the dynasty breaks apart that year. And then, of course, they form the absolute, well, the new dynasty of Octane, Crimsix, Methods, and Scump, with effectively 3 main assault rifles on a team in Scump. Yeah, that didn't really work out too well for these guys. They come top 24 champs, and then, of course, the team entirely breaks apart. And I believe Scump was even maybe joking about it on stream last night, the idea like, look, if this game is World War II again, as it is, then, you know, what am I going to do, right? Because this clearly wasn't my title the first time round. Maybe things will be very different this time, but as Kerry says, you know, not again. Back to Call of Duty World War II. So, obviously, this is just a rumour, nothing confirmed, but usually when these things start to come out, especially when CHaRLy Intel are tweeting it, it does seem to lend some degree of legitimacy. And, well, I imagine it's going to be a relatively similar game to World War II, given it's the same developers making it, and it's just some sort of sequel or some alternate timeline or something along those lines was kind of the rumours that we were hearing. But, yeah, if the game's good, if the maps are good, if the guns are good, then, yeah, I don't really mind where it's set, all things considered. And I just thought this is interesting to finish off the video from Crone. Envoy is the last man standing from Gen.G's Black Ops 4 roster. Nagaf entered Challengers, Morks is now in Challengers, Havoc, of course, on the Mutineers substitute, and Maniak on the bench. Only a couple of years ago, this entire team that was doing so well, coming like top 2 at tournaments, like almost won some tourneys if it weren't for E United and 100 Thieves at the time being so good. Yeah, these guys now, pretty much all of them are no longer in the Pro League. Shows how competitive it is, but also shows how much young talent there is up and coming and hungry to get into the league. And for good reason, but well, some of these guys potentially outed due to other reasons, not just skill. Enjoy to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.
And we are going to be exploring swapping Prestinni to a second AR role and making a roster change.
Yeah, with that being said, and for reasons Brian will explain momentarily, Prestinni is, in fact, moving from one of our SMG players to becoming the second AR player, and MajorManiak is moving down to the bench. To round out our roster, we'll be taking Standy from the Challenger scene and moving him to our second SMG slot.
Yeah, so this was an incredibly hard decision for us to take. There was a lot of variables going into it. We had sit-downs with every single player, and the overall consensus was that Prestinni does need to be on that second AR role where he feels the most comfortable. And then it was a matter of, you know, do we put Mike on a second SMG where he's super uncomfortable, or do we bring in, you know, one of these young and upcoming players from the Challenger scene? And it just so happened that we were already in the process of, you know, bringing Standy on as a sub, and he kind of just, you know, fit that role perfectly for us.